Welcome to our next session here at the 5G Manufacturing Forum, where we're going to look into the edge play, optimizing data processing management and analysis for better operations in a manufacturing enterprise. And we've got some great guests to discuss this topic. Very pleased to welcome Caroline Chan, who's Vice President of Network and Edge Group, and then General Manager of the Network Business Incubator Division with Intel, and Jillian Kaplan, who's the lead for telecom and 5G thought leadership at Dell Technologies. So thank you both so much for joining us today for the program and to have this conversation.
Thank you for having us.
So Caroline, in the past, when you and I have discussed 5G as an enabler of digital transformation in whatever vertical, manufacturing today, you've always pointed out that it's not just 5G. You've got to have 5G, mobile edge compute infrastructure, AI, ML, just a confluence of technologies. So maybe to start off, you could contextualize for our audience how those technologies all fit together to really drive meaningful change for a manufacturing enterprise.
No, thanks for keeping the talk straight, right? Because we always talk about 5G is not the end, it's a means to the end. It's providing the connectivity and also the ultra low latency. Some of the things that the previous generation of wireless have failed to do. But in the process of doing so, it does require a significant amount of investment from the operator side. However, what 5G does is bring together this different technology that we have seen proliferated recently, especially in the enterprise side, like compute, but pushing compute from the cloud to the edge, AI, machine learning, all the camera technology. So because of the fact that 5G is more than connectivity, because of the fact that 5G has all the security and all of the ultra low latency, it does provide a very convenient intersection of all these different technologies, especially for the industrial side. We've seen that all these constraints in supply chain really highlight the fact that manufacturing is a lifeblood of our society. It's not just the fact that you are improving productivity, but we have to bring IT and telco and OT, the operations side, all together. And that's no small feat. And it does require us to all invest, because you're seeing all these tangential technologies, the AI, ML definitely taking up. Computer vision is really proliferated in the industrial side. HEV, robotics, all of these together was a common theme is flexibility, is adaptability, it's a lower cost of digitize your entire environment. All of these has a common theme, is connectivity. That's why 5G together with everything is, the computer vision piece is a newly added, but it's really exploded. We've seen quite a bit of this. I think I'm so glad to have this opportunity to chat with you and Jillian about this.
Yeah, you raise a great point there around just the sheer volume of technology that's in play when we talk about bringing 5G to bear on the manufacturing sector. And Jillian, this is kind of an interesting question, but it's a problem statement and it's an opportunity statement. But I guess the thing is, if you're a manufacturer, your goal is to purchase a business outcome, not necessarily purchase technology. We've heard that so far in the program. I suspect we'll get into it more later. But just this is something that Dell covered in a paper earlier this year, where you kind of went through what are some of the primary applications that can really drive change in manufacturing. So maybe you could walk us through some of those and then draw that line from the investment in technology to the business outcome.
Sure. As we've progressed in the 5G space, we've noticed that even non-technology companies like manufacturing, right, like other industries, have to become technology companies in order to advance. And that's really what 5G is going to bring to the enterprise, is that these enterprises that don't normally have a background with technology have to innovate in order to, see their goals and outcomes, as you pointed out, Sean, reached, right? So manufacturing is no exception to this rule, and investing in technology can enable applications to potentially reduce costs and time. So things like knowing when sub-assemblies need to arrive. Digital twins can drive efficiency and innovation. Smarter production lines are efficient in reducing waste. Machines can actually organize their own repairs, right? So they know when they need to be repaired and when they need to be worked on. Products customized to needs. AR and VR can empower workers, and we can get rid of like excess production and really reduce overall waste. And I think another thing that's really important to realize is that beyond all of these sort of efficiency and time saving and hopefully money saving capabilities, there's a lot of importance to humans as well as we automate these capabilities. So if we look at some of the things that are extremely important, on averages, business spend $170 billion a year on injury and illness. And if we can improve these procedures and processes, right, we can reduce the cost by 20 to 40%. So obviously that is a cost reduction, but that's also getting humans out of harm's way. And over the past 30 years, there's been about 4,500 overall fatalities by humans getting in their own way on manufacturing floors, compared to only 27 robot-related fatalities, right? So that means that a robot malfunctioned and killed someone. We obviously want to get that number down to 0, but over 4,500 down to 27, that's a lot of lives saved. And that's really, really important as we look at automation beyond just cost and time savings. It's saving humans as well.
So really powerful set of technology and some really powerful outcomes that it can bring into the real world, including improved life safety in a manufacturing environment. So I think we've really framed out the value proposition of 5G for manufacturing. Now maybe we can talk a little bit about how to get it into the end user's hands. So what's the right consumption model? Caroline, a big manufacturing enterprise, they're no stranger to sort of a cloud-based operation and heavily integrated software systems throughout whatever their business and operational systems are. Then you've also got that against a backdrop of spectrum access liberalization in key industrial markets, CBRS in the US, 3.6 in Germany, just to give two examples. So what's happening right now is there's some big companies that are actually pursuing all of this digitalization, including the cellular network in-house, taking kind of a DIY model. So I was curious if you could give us a little insight to what that takes organizationally to do it yourself. What's the upside? What's the downside there?
Sean, you point out a very good question. We talked about it, discussed with our end users and customers quite a bit on this. Now, like what you're describing, the spectrum availability is a key factor. There's another key factor is that the 5G network is becoming cloud native. Had this been the previous generation, would have been a bit more challenging, but because we have embarking on this network function virtualization for the last 10 plus years, we started adopting what the cloud has done. So something that the private enterprises may be familiar with. So if you just take Open RAN as an example, it creates something called a RIC, intelligent controller, and RIC allows third-party application, SAPs, real-time and non-real-time to come in, which potentially enable things like positioning technology, like indoor positioning services, things that the enterprises could be familiar with. The challenge still has to be that the unit requires a system integrator role, SI role. But what it does is it gives a control back to the enterprises. If they have the ambition as well as the capability, the scale in the organization to do it, they probably know best what the IT and OT environment is. Telco has always been challenging. Telco has been very specialized, vertical in the historical sense. But what we have done in Intel and Dell and a whole host of other ecosystem is to really start breaking down that barrier. For example, Intel put out something called openness or Smart Edge Open, which is to provide this layer of API to, I use the word hide the network ugliness. I know some of the operators don't like that, but it's really to say network it's really an infrastructure that you can expose the data so the developers can take that information and write into the application. Dell, VMware, Intel, Microsoft, and T-Mobile and Amdocs co-founded as a 5G Open Innovation Lab for developers. Precisely that, because we know if we don't do this, you're not going to be able to build an ecosystem that can support 5G in manufacturing, and that's very critically needed. We don't make 5G network like an app, to be able to host an app store that others can come in and write. So the proliferation of spectrum, especially private spectrum, the proliferation of a cloud native network, the proliferation of at least a starting of a momentum to accommodate application developers, I think all come in play to enable in the future. I'm hopeful that we'll have a healthy ecosystem to adopt 5G, edge compute, AI, ML into the manufacturing space.
And Jillian, I'd like to get some perspective from you on that topic as well. You and your colleagues at the telecom systems business within Dell, you work to support carriers who are trying to deliver 5G into the enterprise space, including manufacturing space. So maybe you could help us understand, what's the argument for working with a telco, even if you take that spectrum piece out of the way and remove a gating factor? I think there's a lot of conversations, well, we could build the network in-house, and I don't disagree with that, particularly as the network is commoditized. But then there's also that maybe more important piece about actually running the network, which is something telcos do 24/7. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, telecoms have been building networks for 150 plus years, right? So they've evolved over time, and we've watched them evolve extremely rapidly over the past 10 to 20 years, right? I started in the business when we were first launching fiber, which was innovative at that time. And I can't believe in the past 17 years how much quicker it's even gone, right? So we talk about all these amazing applications that Caroline mentioned, the AI and ML, and we often forget about the network they need to run on. Like, all of these applications need a network, and that is what telecoms do. That's what they provide. That's what they've been doing forever. And if we can help the telecoms enable the manufacturers to take it off their plates, they don't have to worry about it. That's what's key. And Dell Technologies and Intel together have been leaders in the enterprise space for a very long time. And our goal is to help communication service providers monetize their investments in 5G with these enterprise use cases like manufacturing, and making sure these manufacturers can save money, save time, save lives as they build out, as these telecoms build out their 5G networks through our core solutions, our edge solutions, our RAN solutions, which we've partnered with Intel on. We can build these custom solutions to solve these enterprise challenges.
Caroline, maybe you can kind of bring us into the real world here. I know you did some work, Intel did some work with Telecom Italia, JMA Wireless, and Exor International to build a smart factory in Verona. So maybe you can just share some insights into what you and your technology partners learned through that process of building a smart factory. And I'm particularly interested in that bridge between capturing data to quickly turning it into something actionable that hits the business's top line or bottom line.
Yeah, this is actually a very good example. We talked about private networks. In this case, Telecom Italia is actually the partner into this to show this, the possibility. So Exor International is a European-based large manufacturer. They decided to build 100% digitalized smart factory from the ground up in Verona, Italy. So we partnered together. We provided the technology to them, a network that's built with Intel CPU, FPGA. In addition, they also use extensively software from verticals for manufacturing. For example, Intel has this Edge AI, Edge Insight software. They use OpenVINO, which is an AI builder software. So that's the net is that it's not enough just have infrastructure. The foundational software is also very important. And because XOR is in the domain of manufacturing, they're able to bring in a lot of their own insights to immediately put that to the top line and bottom line. In the factory itself, it actually, the digitalization covers from mundane things like tracking employee timesheets and time off requirements to the production environment, AGVs, and to tracking supplies where the parts are. So you could tell once you do that, it saves the bottom line. It also, like Jillian talked about, worker safety, especially during the past 2 years that we went through. That becomes an automated record keeping. That's bottom line. And top line is improving their production quality, efficiency through computer vision, through AGV. We could tell, like in this example, connectivity truly becomes the enabler of flexibility. They no longer have to rely on reconfiguring the factories every single time. Everything's on the network, on the connectivity, starting with LTE, going now into 5G space, especially with Tim providing all the SI capability and all the spectrums. So the net, the varieties, the flavor that you can the technology you can inject it into a smart factory is boundless. But the bottom line is you need to have the 5G technology. You need to have also the flexibility, cloud native network, and software. None of these can be missed. Cannot be missed in order to build this really smart factory of the future.
And Jillian, I think we have time for one more question. So, throughout the program today, and also in this particular conversation, the term ecosystem has come up. And I know Dell, it plays a very important part in creating an open networking ecosystem of partners, including Intel. So I just would like to understand how that approach of developing this highly flexible underlying infrastructure layer, cloud native, software first operations, will help operators as they try to enable all of these highly variable use cases that we discussed today, but also monetize them. So how does that flexible infrastructure layer help them capture this new business and start to generate money off of their billion-dollar investments into 5G?
We have to work together on this, all of the different vendors, 100%. And there are so many vendors and organizations committed to this. We are actually physically building a lab as we speak in Austin, Texas, that we're calling the Open Telecom Ecosystem Lab, or OTEL for short, which you'll probably hear a lot of abbreviations because we love abbreviations. And Intel is in there, lots of other vendors are in there, and we are truly working on an open ecosystem to help reduce risk deployment solutions and providing CSPs and enterprises with options and flexibility in their hardware and software infrastructure choices, right? So we're creating the environment with, I think it's like 200 racks we're going to have available for testing, right? To make sure that we can truly test these solutions before we put them in market, to make sure that they work, right? And deployments go well, not only for the telecoms, but also for their enterprise end users. And that's extremely important as we look to this open ecosystem and making sure that the industry really partners together to build this correctly and help the telecoms see the monetization benefits, to your point, in their billion-dollar investments.
All right. Well, I think that's a good point to end it, but I really appreciate you all having this conversation about the role of edge in delivering 5G manufacturing, and then everything that implies for telecom companies and the manufacturing sector. So Jillian, Caroline, thank you so much. And everyone, please stay tuned for more of the 5G Manufacturing Forum.
Thank you.